Jägermeister is forever associated with college parties thanks to the famous drink that sports its name, the Jager bomb. But the spicy German liquor in the distinct green bottle had a long, winding journey from its creation back in the old country to a fun night out with your buds. And not all of it goes down smooth. Today on Weird History Food, we're uncapping the history of Jägermeister. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel. And let us know in the comments below what other brewful histories you would like to hear about. Okay, time to call the bomb squad. The year was 1878. The place? The extremely German city of Wolfenbüttel. Back then, Wolfenbüttel was home to a bustling mining industry. The local miners would use a process called fire setting to warm stone, usually rock salt or potash, until it cracked. Then they would use vinegar to cool the stone back down before extracting it. Naturally, these miners had a need for vinegar that outpaced their local small-town supply, and it was only a matter of time before someone stepped up to meet their vinegar demand. Enter Wilhelm Mast. Mast had moved from Wolfenbüttel early in the 1870s. After some time spent surveying the local economic landscape, he decided he was just the man the miners needed, and he opened up his very own vinegar production plant. With a built-in buyer already nearby, the business was an instant success. As the company grew, Wilhelm's product line grew with it. Since the creation process for vinegar and wine are closely linked, vinegar literally means sour wine in Middle English, Wilhelm soon started fermenting wines in his production plant as well. We assume productivity took a hit as morale went sky high. However, as the decades went on, business began to drag. And by the early 1900s, the company had racked up a considerable amount of debt. When Wilhelm died in 1918, his son, Kurt, took over the family business. Kurt knew things had to change if he wanted to stay afloat, and so he immediately halted all of the plant's vinegar production and decided to focus solely on winemaking. What's more, he began to experiment with creating his own liqueur, just to give his company that little extra something to keep customers coming back. He spent over a decade experimenting on this liqueur, sometimes finding his creations too sweet, sometimes finding them too citrusy. After presumably inventing and reinventing Mountain Dew a few dozen times, Kurt Mast ultimately settled on a recipe that used a whopping 56 natural herbs and spices, which included everything from ginger and cardamom to star anise and licorice root. He called his new creation Jägermeister, which translated from German means hunt master. And his recipe has not changed to this day. While his company has since confirmed some of the ingredients, the majority of them still remain a secret. The drink's label likewise features the St. Hubertus stag, or a St. Hubertus if you like, a mythical creature adorned with a radiant cross nestled between its antlers. And despite the popular myth, the recipe does not contain today any amount of deer blood, unless you add your own. According to Catholic accounts, on one fateful Good Friday, this stag once materialized before a down-and-out, recently widowed hunter in medieval France, converting him to Christianity in an instant and changing the course of his life. For this experience, the hunter was subsequently canonized by the Catholic Church, and St. Hubertus has ever since been known as the patron saint of huntsmen, and by extension, those camouflaged cans of Busch Light. For a drink whose name means hunt master, Hubertus' stag is just about as good a mascot as one could come up with. So it has been stamped on every bottle of Jägermeister since. Speaking of the drink's distinct green bottle, that was the product of serious scientific research. Mast smashed hundreds of bottles onto his oak floor and picked up the only one that didn't break upon impact. Hey, what did you expect him to do? Math? He filled one of these bottles up, slapped a label on it, and in 1934, just 1 year after Hitler came to power, Kurt's creation was finally ready for the big leagues. That same year, Germany's then second most powerful man, Hermann Göring, had assumed the role of Jägermeister, or Imperial Huntmaster. He was apparently a real staghead. This made Göring the head of Germany's biggest hunting society, and anyone who wanted a hunting license had to go through his organization. So as Kurt Mast's Jägermeister gained popularity, it naturally got its very own Hermann Göring-related nickname, Göring Schnapps, which was unflattering to say the least. Schnapps is the worst thing you can call a drink.
Schnaps, 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 Schnaps.
Whether or not this was intentional on Kurt Mast's part remains unclear. He distanced himself from the Nazis after the war, but then again, so did a lot of Nazis. Regardless of Mast's original intentions, Schnapps, Jägermeister, soon became commonplace within Germany for its alleged medicinal benefits. It was most commonly used as a digestif, a post-dinner drink meant to aid in digestion, but it was also kept on hand for any other medical ailments that may arise. Got a stomachache? Drink some Jägermeister. Caught a cold? Drink some Jägermeister. Hungover? Drink some Jägermeister. It's good for whatever ails you. As the world descended once more into war, Connecticut-born Sidney Frank was sent over to India by Pratt & Whitney Motors to help improve engine performance for Allied aircraft. He would later use this engineering skill to become a hooch billionaire. After the war's close, he married into the illustrious Rosenstyle family and got a new job with their company, Schenley Industries, which had at the time a large distillery in the country. Frank's first major job for the company was to head over to England, where he was told to fix a dysfunctional Scotch distillery that Schenley Industries had recently acquired. While there, he managed to up production from 1 million gallons of Scotch per week to 3.6 million gallons, enough to fuel every business lunch in the world. The production boost added nearly $10 million in weekly profits, securing Frank's job with Schenley Industries and eventually landing him the Schenley Industries presidency. As president, his primary achievement was securing the importation of Dewar's White Label Scotch, making it into an American mainstay. But in 1970, Frank was pushed out of Schenley Industries altogether, apparently as the result of a family conflict. Frank and his wife were left to fend for themselves. So just 3 years later, he decided to start his own competing liquor company, the Sidney Frank Importing Company. Clearly, he wanted Schenley Industries to know exactly who was cutting into their customer base. Around 1974, Sidney was drinking at a New York bar when he stumbled upon a certain obscure German liqueur with a stag on the bottle. Its taste reminded him of root beer, black licorice, and Vicks Formula 44. In other words, it tasted like spicy cough syrup, and it was a flavor Frank absolutely had to have. At the time, Jägermeister was already on the move in Europe. Just 2 years earlier, it had gotten a sponsorship deal with the German football team Eintracht Braunschweig. Since advertising on team shirts was illegal in Germany at the time, NASCAR would have had a difficult time in 1970s Germany. The company planned to slyly replace the team's previous lion logo with a Jägermeister stag, like sliding Garfield into the MGM logo. They were caught in the act, though, and it took a whole year of legal battles for the stag to finally make it onto team jerseys, setting a new template for jersey advertising for years to come. Even as it hit football fields across the Atlantic, though, Jägermeister still had very little presence in the U.S. At the time, only a mere 600 cases were sold from sea to shining sea each year. And so, spotting an opportunity in that New York bar, Frank booked a trip to Germany and met with the Jaeger chief executive, Walter Zandvoss. At first, he only managed to obtain the rights to sell Jägermeister along the East Coast, from Maryland to Florida, otherwise known as the summer vacation route. But when other suppliers struggled to do their part, he stepped in and slowly took over distribution rights for the entire country. In 1985, the Baton Rouge Advocate published an article detailing Jägermeister's growing popularity among Louisiana college kids. To some, it had become a sort of goof beverage that you drink ironically, like the Malort liqueur of the Bayou State. To others, the mystery of its 56 natural herbs and spices created an allure for the unknown. Was Jägermeister an aphrodisiac? Did it secretly contain opium? Can the stag see me?
When I think of what Jägermeister tastes like, to me it tastes like money because I'm making money on it.
This article reached Sidney Frank's desk and he saw an opportunity. So he headed down south to leverage the drink's existing success there. He apparently printed out thousands of photocopies of the Baton Rouge Advocate article and distributed them to bars all over New Orleans. He also hired the first ever Jägerettes, a group of young women, scantily dressed in Jägermeister attire, who would hit the Louisiana college bars to flirt with the male students there and to persuade them to drink more Jägermeister. This is how 90% of products are sold today. It wasn't long before Jägermeister exploded out of its Louisiana fan base and into college towns all across America. By the 1990s, Jägermeister was just about everywhere. But since the ideal temperature for Jägermeister is negative 18 degrees Celsius, it was often hidden out of sight in some far-off freezer. To fix this injustice, Jägermeister developed its very own tap machines, which allowed Jägermeister a front and center spot along bars across America, and helped to grow the brand even bigger than ever before. And while Frank moved on to develop Grey Goose vodka, his European import continued its meteoric rise into the new millennium. By the mid-2000s, the company had over 1,000 Jägerettes and Jaeger dudes under its employment. Under these circumstances, the arrival of the Jaeger bomb was inevitable. It's from this period that the first ever Jaeger bombs appeared, but it remains unclear who, or dare we say what, first created them. While Jägermeister has never officially endorsed or embraced the Jaeger bomb, its rise and fall in popularity has had a huge impact on the company's overall success. But as other drinks like Fireball and flavored vodkas have risen up in recent years to take over a large chunk of Jägermeister's college party market share, the company has had to pivot, just like when you need to switch to water after too many Jaeger bombs. In 2015, Jägermeister bought up the Sidney Frank Importing Company, allowing it to take full control over its own U.S. distribution. They've since used that acquisition as a springboard for their pivot, turning away from their youthful party past in an attempt to reach an older, more upscale audience. It was around this time that the Milwaukee Bucks introduced their newest logo, which bore some resemblance to Jägermeister's presumably hammered stag. Jägermeister immediately filed a formal notice of opposition to the new Bucks logo, but apparently the two just had to get to know each other. Just days later, a spokesman for Jägermeister said they were now working with the team, and shortly thereafter launched the Be the Meister campaign, which brought the new super premium Jägermeister Manifest onto the market. Manifest contains more ingredients than traditional Jägermeister, and is slightly more potent for refined drinkers who like to get tipsy while listening to opera. They've also since developed Jägermeister Cold Brew Coffee, which boasts the caffeine of a Jaeger bomb, but in a classier all-in-one bottle, and the Jägermeister Scharf, which is just like the regular Jägermeister, but with a spicy hot ginger taste. Regardless of which Jägermeister product you choose, to this day, each bottle's label sports the same words that Jägermeister sported for just shy of a century. An excerpt from a poem by German ornithologist and writer Oskar von Riesenthal. It is the hunter's honor that he protects and preserves his game. Hunt sportsmanlike, honors the creator in his creatures. So what do you think? Do you like Jaeger? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from our Weird History Food.